here on this Thursday, September 11th, 2025. It's the All Access Football Daily Show. We're live each and every day, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week, no days off. And our next guest also takes no days off. In fact, he's got over 2 decades of covering the NFL and NFL draft. You may remember him from the Sporting News, Pro Football Weekly, of course, Yahoo Sports, now doing Big Willie things over at NFL.com for the NFL and NFL draft. Of course, a native of Boston, now living in the Chicago area. He joins us right now. One of my favorite people to chop it up and talk football with. He is Eric Edholm, and we thank him so much for taking some time to join us. What's happening, Eric?
Not much, man. That was about the best intro I've ever gotten, I think. You had my bio down to grade school there. I was impressed. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, we've kind of come up together in this business, right? And it's been a lot of fun when we can rise together through the ranks, and we enjoy all the work that you do. And I believe you're one of the few people behind the scenes who do the great game previews and the post-game recaps, what we learned. And we're going to talk about what we're going to learn, or 3 key matchups I think you did for the Commanders and Packers. But since you are in Chicago, let's start it off right there, because I don't know if you saw the report from Tyler Dunn that was circulating about Caleb Williams possibly having a learning disability the Bears didn't know about during the draft process. But I saw Ben Johnson challenge Caleb Williams early on in the training camp, and he runs a complex system. And Caleb, he just seems to always want to improvise, and if he's there in the pocket, he doesn't look comfortable, but he's got to get on the move, on the run, almost like a playmaking point guard. What's your read on the quarterback situation? They extended Tyson Bagent, who's looked so impressive, right? What's your read on the whole Chicago Bears in this quarterback situation?
Yeah, I think if we're being fair, we need to give this at least half a season to see how this works out. Now, that said, it's hard not to look at this right now and wonder if Ben Johnson truly believes Caleb Williams is the guy. He might, and we can only take him at his word, right? And he's been tough on him. He's been critical. You pointed out, like, Ben wanted to set a tone early in camp. Details. Let's get these things down. A 2-yard split is a 2-yard split, not a 1.5 yards, not 3 yards. It's, our timing is important. You saw how bad that element of the Bears offense was too, the false starts and the other penalties and, pre-snap procedural stuff. Like, that's the kind of thing that will hold an offense back, independent of Caleb. That said, as the game went on, you saw him go from very good on that first drive to maybe acceptable play in the middle to let's not do that. Let's not overthrow guys who are running free. Let's not try to up the degree of difficulty, to your point of, the style points always seem to be in play with him. And he can make a lot of amazing plays. Like, we saw that throw to Rome Odunze on the first drive. Like, come on, that's big time. But there's not enough of the let's check out of the bad plays and get into a 2-yard run. That isn't going to be a loss. And his pocket movement was better in week 1. I thought, boy, he escaped a couple sacks early and really did a good job of that. And I have to also point out, boy, I was thoroughly underwhelmed with the interior trio on the offensive line. The 3 guys they went out and spent on this year. And I thought, geez, that's got to get better. So a lot going on right now. And I'm not going to deny that there isn't some Caleb concern or angst or whatever, but I think we still need to give it another 7 or 8 games before we're putting a stamp on whether this is going to work or not.
Yeah, it's definitely a storyline worth monitoring in Chicago.
Yes.
And I think the most frustrating thing is, to your point, he makes these electrifying flash plays, and you hear arm talent mostly associated with Caleb Williams, and then he makes some other plays that aren't so great. But to your point, that offensive line, they put a lot of equity into rebuilding the offensive line unit. You mentioned the 3 interior guys. I think Dahman, Jonah Jackson, and Thuney. And they all allowed at least 4 pressures. I mean, you can't be soft up the middle of your offensive line either. So that's going to be a troubling point moving forward there for the Chicago Bears. Now, another team suddenly with the quarterback concern is the San Francisco 49ers. And Monday came by, Tuesday rolled around, and it was like, hey, he's got a shoulder injury, but it's his non-throwing shoulder. Hey, he's got a toe injury. And then all of a sudden yesterday, we hear that he's going to join possibly George Kittle now on the shelf. We know Kittle's going to be out for an extended period of time, and we can talk about that. But they did bring in Mike White for a workout, which tends to lead me to believe Purdy here could miss significant time.
Yeah, it sounds like the window for him could be 2 weeks, could be 5, and you look at their schedule. Yeah, I mean, New Orleans isn't the most threatening thing in the world this weekend. I believe they've got 2 or 3 divisional games coming up in that next chunk of games. They've got the Bucks in there too, an improved Jags team. So this is no easy stretch considering what they're potentially missing here, right? You mentioned Kittle. Jennings is banged up, Williams, and now Purdy is the big one. And Mac Jones, I guess he'd be excited about going against the Jags. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that one yet until you brought it up. But, they got to get through this game first. And it was interesting. I mean, obviously the Mac Jones, Kyle Shanahan thing has an interesting draft angle to it, as you know. I was one of those people who was told by somebody who would know, or I thought would know, that this was Shanahan's guy. Like in the draft, they loved him. And come draft time, all of a sudden, Trey Lance is the pick. Now, I have never really kind of gotten to the total bottom of that thing, and I know there's a lot of tentacles to it, but I think Kyle was very interested in Mac. Whether that means he can go out and perform functionally with a banged up offense is another question altogether. We know his history. It's been very mixed at best. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on Mac coming out? I mean, I was obviously conflicted about him, but hearing enough positive things from like decent football people, like you felt like there were enough suitors out there that maybe there was something to work with there.
Yeah, well, I mean, hindsight's 2020, so I think they were both misses in terms of being first round talents. But I do think a lot of times that has to do with coaching. In terms of Mac, he was extremely accurate and efficient, especially in that short intermediate game. I wasn't in love with the arm strength. I thought the arm strength was probably the hindrance there. But I'm with you. Like I heard some talk that 49ers were interested, and we'll see. Like Shanahan was, he was considered a quarterback whisperer before the Sean McVays and the Kevin O'Connells of the world. So, like, I think Shanahan will implement an efficient short-term scheme, but I wonder, like, if he doesn't like what he sees out of Mac Jones, will they explore somebody like a Kirk Cousins?
I mean, Kirk has been you can't call him the white whale, right? I mean, it's like he's had opportunities to go get him if you wanted him, but he's always been that kind of, break glass in case of emergency option. It is there, right? And the Falcons seem to be banking on some team losing their quarterback either in training camp, preseason, or early in the season, with the idea of hanging on to him and taking that anchor of a salary with it, and then eventually they can offload him if they need to. Look, I don't know if that'll work out, but it's certainly a possibility. And I mean, you've seen these situations where a quarterback, or anybody for that matter, gets an injury prognosis that's a little unclear, or multiple injuries, and we get one timetable and then it's slightly adjusted and it can linger a little bit. So I don't know the degree of medical concern right now, but it feels a little murky to me, which would maybe open the possibility for an outside quarterback, whether it's a guy like White or the more not permanent, but the more significant move with a guy like Cousins.
Yeah, I think Cousins at least adds a perception of more stability, but we'll see.
It warrants discussion anyway, right? I mean, you got to at least have that conversation, I would think.
I think you do have to have that conversation because this was a team that was bit by the injury bug all last season. They had 17 guys on the injury report show up in week 1. McCaffrey's banged up. Jawan Jennings is banged up. I mean, where does it ever end for the San Francisco 49ers? All right, 2 teams they'll be chasing in the NFC hunt. Tonight, Thursday Night Football, Washington Commanders at Green Bay Packers. Both teams coming off an impressive week 1 victory. And I noticed you had 3 key storylines to watch in this matchup over at NFL.com. Enlighten us.
Yeah, no, I think obviously, people are still fascinated and enraptured by the idea of Parsons in Green Bay. Anytime there's a big trade like this, naturally, we can't forget that he played 29 snaps in the opener, which Matt LaFleur said was more than they expect. He almost sounded like it was like double more. I mean, not
Yeah,
just like,
I
well, we
think they
wanted to
said
keep him under.
he talked himself into more playing time. I think he said.
He said what?
Parsons actually talked himself into playing more. They were actually going to play
Exactly.
more.
Come
Yeah.
on, let me out there, right? I mean, you love that. But now you got to turn around, 72 hours later or whatever and get ready for this game. And he's still on the injury report. He's got the back. It's going to be kind of a week-to-week thing. You remember Khalil Mack missed a couple games in that 2018 season, right? The parallels are fascinating to me. But, yeah, this is going to be another case of how much can he go, and how much can they use him? Parsons has a great history against the Commanders and against Daniels. He had 4.5 sacks against them last year. So, that approach Green Bay has taken in the past, some of those athletic quarterbacks where they mush rush and they kind of, keep them in the pocket and try to make those players operate like Jalen Hurts and such. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. I'll be fascinated to see if that is altered at all. If Parsons is able to go, but it's a big game for Jordan Love too. I mean, just week one was really good for the most part. He did have that shaky series where he threw a dropped pick and then a pick that was called back by penalty. So, I still think if Green Bay wants to fancy itself a Super Bowl team, Jordan Love has got to be a Super Bowl quarterback or at least relatively close to that. And, sort of a less amplified version of what we were talking about with Caleb, where there's stretches of brilliance and really solid play. And then there are stretches where he just seems to kind of get swallowed up by the moment almost. So, maybe that's a little unfair to him, but I've always kind of had a soft spot for Jordan Love and feel like there's still a world in which he can become an upper echelon quarterback, and they paid him like one. So, this is going to be the stretch where I think his legacy starts to get defined. And the other question would be, I guess, how good is that Washington defense coming off a 6-point performance against the Giants? Was that, the opponent predicated? Like, was that, how well are they going to perform against a strong run game and depth at receiver and an athletic quarterback? That's my question.
Yeah, and I mean, we really don't have a lot to go off of except for
Right.
week one. And Green Bay beat up a pretty good team in Detroit, and Washington beat up, I think, a pretty talent deficient team in the New York Giants.
Yeah.
So, and also I do think like there is something to that Micah Parsons momentum. It just feels like there's a new sense of energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I noticed also, like, in this matchup between the Commanders and Packers, 10 of the 11 games have been won by the home team. Green Bay is the home team in this matchup. Are you allowed to give us a prediction here?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I picked. I think I picked Green Bay by a field goal. I think it's obviously I'm still in that mode where I think Thursday games, the home team has a pretty significant advantage more than a Sunday home game. But I've been beaten up a little bit by Commanders fans. I feel like they've turned on me a little bit. I did get slightly out in front of the bandwagon last year. I remember one of the beat writers, I had him, I think, 25th in my initial power rankings, and he's like, this is the highest I've seen him, preseason. And of course, 2 months later, they were the darlings of the league. I'm just not quite there with them as a elite team yet, but who's to say that a month from now I can't change my mind? I just feel like I would side towards Green Bay in this one slightly.
Fair enough. And looking at my notes here, I have the Packers 27-24. So
I like it. That's about what I had. I think 24-21 or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
But we've gotten some good ones here in prime time during that week one. Every prime time game treated us to a nice delight. I think this will be another close game.
Yep. I think so too. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, again, it's just not about those stars. There's other players, but there's some heavyweights in this one.
All right, real quick on your way out the door here now. Philadelphia at Kansas City highlights the Sunday docket. That's a Super Bowl rematch, obviously. I'm just curious how you see that game turning out, and also who is the team or teams to beat early on here in your power rankings?
Yeah, no, I think the the Chiefs are obviously well aware of what's staring them in the face. The team that went up 34-0 in the Super Bowl is the team that's trying to give them an 0-2 record after a 15-win season, and they're just not in this place very often. And so I think there will be that Chiefs sense of pride, which is like, hey, we are not this team, and how much can Mahomes and Kelsey and all those inspirational leaders they have, Nick Bolton, Chris Jones, whoever, will them to victory when they are, let's face it, shorthanded at receiver. It's funny, we talk about this being a passing era, but what do the top offenses all have in common? Like Bills have James Cook, Derrick Henry with the Ravens. You see Chase Brown as an explosive player in Cincinnati, whatever. I mean, just name off. They all have an explosive playmaking back. The Chiefs, I don't think, have that right now. And I don't know if that's their biggest weakness, but it doesn't get talked about a lot. Their run game is almost nil. So they've got some issues. And I think defensively, they were a step late and a dollar short against the Chargers. So a lot going on there. And what was the second part of the question again? I forgot.
Well, just are the Eagles and the Chiefs the teams to beat, or do you see other contenders atop your power rankings early on?
Yeah, I mean, if CeeDee Lamb catches 2 of those last 3 balls, I don't know the Eagles win week 1. I mean, there's still a little bit of question about them. I remember how they started last year. It was a little uneven. Really, that Tampa Bay game in the bye week kind of propelled them to where they ended up getting. So, you never look at the Rams. They've started slowly 2 years in a row, and they've been a horrifically scary team in the playoffs each year. So the first month of the season can be a pseudo preseason for some teams. And I think the teams that are thinking January, like Buffalo's defense and Philly with some stuff in Kansas City, they're not going to sweat these things too much. But at the same time, you have to understand that you put yourself in too big a hole, and it's going to be a big climb.
Yeah, and I thought that Bills and Ravens might be a preview of the AFC Championship come January. That was a way to open up the season with a banger, and we got a good one tonight with a banger. And
yeah,
I know you've got some bangers coming up over at NFL.com. I see you got the show with our Jersey brethren, Mike Yam, again, doing the power ranking show. Tell the listening audience where they can find it. What else you got coming up on tap over at NFL.com.
Yeah, it's my second year doing it with Mike, the Power Rankings podcast, third year doing it overall. I've had a blast. I love every Tuesday we tape. I mean, Mike's such a great dude. I'm sure you've talked to him, and like one of the genuinely nicest people you'll meet. A long-suffering Giants fan who's ready for some Super Bowls again, But we have fun every week. I think, how is Mike going to react to my Giants ranking? That's my big. But we have great chemistry. We enjoy doing the show, and give us your feedback. Like, I'm not afraid of. I love hearing people say you're an idiot. Well, I don't know if I love it. I respect it. I give you your time. I give you the microphone. I let you have your say. It's okay. I'm wrong sometimes. It's good.
Well, we do have a lot of Giants listeners being based in New Jersey, so I'm just curious, where are the Giants on your power ranking?
Boy, wasn't the preseason exciting, right? I mean, everyone got excited. And I was one of them. I thought, well, this is the future of the Giants. You could see Abdul Carter's potential impact. Can we please not have him spy quarterbacks? Like, get him rushing the passer. That's just my little gripe. I mean, he's special. He can do some Micah-like things. And, those other 2 rushers too. I mean, Burns, a healthy Burns is great. Thibodeau, whatever. There's pieces in place with Neighbors, and I think Dart is an intriguing option. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming out, but I'm willing to give him, time to marinate and everything. But do they have to force him in there? Do they feel like that's the cure-all? I don't know. They're a fascinating team, but I'm with that schedule, I'm having a hard time seeing the instant, improvement there.
Yeah, that's the toughest strength of schedule on paper anyway, and we're definitely monitoring. Yeah,
for a head coach and a GM who are like clawing onto their jobs right now. That's the backdrop of the whole thing.
Yeah, I just mentioned the whole 2023 draft class from 2 years ago is completely gone off the roster entirely. So we'll see who survives here in the Meadowlands. But Eric, we know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll chop it up at some point throughout the year, and make sure you check them out. NFL.com. Keeping you locked and loaded during the regular season on all your NFL information, and then also on top of all the NFL draft news. So we look forward to it, Eric.
You're the best, Rick. Enjoyed talking to you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man. There he is, Eric Edholm.